The skipper of the fighter squadron back there, he's got 4 fighters. The skipper of the attack squadron here has got 4 of these. We're going to launch them. We're going to launch your airplanes behind me. They're the attack or dive bomber. Yours is the fighter plane over on the starboard cat, which is behind me, one over. We're all parked back of the island. What happens at that stage of the game is that brown shirts, and you can take a look at what these folks all do right up on the side of the island, but the brown shirts, the blue shirts, the green shirts, the yellow shirts, the blue shirts and brown shirts will undo the airplane, take the chains off, they pull them over their back, and we start bringing the airplanes up the flight deck through the center area. The fighter planes will be on starboard side, attack airplanes on this side, the port. As we come up the flight deck, we're going to approach a piece of equipment, a rectangle called the jet blast deflector, which is right there. It's a white or a light gray. You see it on the deck? The idea of a jet blast deflector is relatively simple. When the jet blast deflector comes up to about 80 degrees, you can see the jet exhaust will hit it and it goes up. Therefore, what we can do is right behind the skipper, as he comes across, park his wingman right behind it. As it comes up, as he taxis up, she can taxi her airplane right behind us. So we're stacking the airplanes up just like little pigs in a row, ready to go. Now what we're going to talk about here in about 10 minutes or so, maybe 15, is going to take a minute, maximum. So, you taxi this airplane up. And as you start taxiing the airplane up, as it comes just by the blast deflector, you have to visualize the airplane aft. A person is going to walk up alongside your airplane, and he's going to say to you, by walking alongside, holding this up like this, the pilot will look down and he'll say, is this the weight of your airplane? Which we figured down in the ready rooms. We're going to shoot this airplane at about 20 tons, 38,000 pounds. It's also written there. He'll also step out to this area, and at that stage, there's a little white circle, or if you will, an oblong painted out there. That's a door that tips up, and behind that door are the gauges where you actually set in how much pressure you want the catapult to fire at. He'll hold this out here, and they will crank in 38,000 pounds into their gauges, and then it'll be checked up in primary flight control to make sure we have the right amount of thermal energy and steam coming in to fire this airplane at 20 tons. Now that's important because the pilot, believe it or not, does not want to go swimming. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you that right up front. So, as the skipper taxis up, she comes up here, and as she comes up past that, the next thing you'll see walking along the airplane are the red shirts. And what the red shirts are doing, it's okay, he's fine, we're fine, guys. Nice to see you. Say, sir, how are you today? Nice having you aboard. They'll be pulling the pins. They'll be pulling the weapons pins. And what they'll do, they'll walk along, and when they pull the last pin, might be on this sidewinder. And for those of you who know the sidewinder, this is the one that'll track on a cigarette at 3 miles. They come by like this, and they simply hold it up like this. The pilot will give him a thumbs up. He's still taxiing up. He's about 10 seconds behind that jet blast deflector now, taxiing up. And as he's coming up, he is now looking very focused on a yellow shirt who is taxiing this airplane up. He's right out here in front of it. He's looking right down the catapult track and that small trough, and he's taxiing this airplane up. Are you with me? Not a good position to be in sometimes. That other thing is going, and saying, come a little closer. What you don't want to see is the yellow shirt's feet sticking out the end of this thing. But the idea is he's taxiing it up, and what he wants to do is line up the nose wheels right over the top of a small trough. And after we get through, you can come up here and take a look, and I'll show you if you'd like, right in the middle. And this is what revolutionized the launch sequence of an aircraft carrier. The old days, we had to push them, pull them, shove them around, push them back and forth. In this particular case, what happens is we're going to take a launch bar, and it happens to be in the down position, which is right here on the front of the nose gear. He's taxiing the airplane up, and this launch bar is up like this, way high, right about here. Now, visualize what happens. When it goes down, it's going to go down into that trough if it's lined up properly, correct? And the signal for that is, and he's not mad at you, skipper, or giving you something, he looks you at the eye and he goes like this. That's the signal. She hits a little switch inside the cockpit. The launch bar now comes down and seats itself in this trough right here with ample room on both sides to jockey around. This is what revolutionized it. When it came down it came. The idea is when it's down, we want it to run up over the top of the shuttle, which is attached to the catapult. You with me? The problem there is if you run it up over the top of the shuttle, and that's what's going to shoot you, what's going to keep the airplane from just rolling down the flight deck by itself? Nothing, with the exception of the fact, met a young lady over there that does this about 80, maybe 90 times a day on the Carl Vinson. What your job was to take a piece of gear called the holdback. Here it is. And if you ever want to see a young lady that was toned with arms that could break us in half, this was her. She told me she loved her job. She used to throw bales of hay around up on the trailer without using the equipment, and I believe it. Because this is a holdback bar. Ready? Heavy? Give you a one-hand shot there. I know you I'm just kidding him on that. But this is heavy. If you'd like to try it sometime, I'll give it to you. Now, how much that weighs, I don't know. But it's heavy. But it's unique. You'll notice on this end, the trailing end, there's a T. A small T in the metal. On this end, there's a piece of metal. Somebody took that. Maybe I took it.
Is it in the bucket?
Can I put it in my pocket? At my age, you never know. It's called a dog bone. It's a piece of milled metal. And they painted this one in, or I could show you, but you flip a little switch here, and this will actually slide out. When it slides in, each airplane, each individual one has one that's built just specifically for it. You see how it would slide in? So we've got one end attached. This end is unattached. You flip the little switch down, and what that young lady would do, as the airplane taxied up, and we're about 15 seconds into our taxi, she would get underneath the nose gear, under here, on a pitching deck, take this, and attach it right between, there's an attachment point right between the nose gear. So effectively, we have the aft part, or rear end of the dog bone, attached to it, and now this is attached to the airplane. Remember the name, holdback. Now what's happening at that stage of the game, this yellow shirt right here, who's right out in front, is really inching the airplane forward. Come a little bit, give me a little of this. He's bringing that airplane up, and up it comes. And at that stage of the game is when they gave you, skipper, a signal for this. You drop the nose toe, and as it comes up over the top of the shuttle, it drops in there. The airplane is now held back, not going anywhere, and the nose toe is in the shuttle. So far, so good. At that stage of the game, to make it relatively simple, there's and then again, this is what makes it happen. These young non-commissioned enlisted, this man is a second-class petty officer probably, he goes underneath this wheel right here. He checks to make sure it's in position. When he does that, he will give a signal like this to the yellow shirt. The yellow shirt in front of the airplane at that stage of the game is going to raise his hands to you, skipper. And by the way, over on the other catapult, the same thing is happening to the other airplane. He'll give him a wind-up signal. At that wind-up signal, what you do as a pilot, you take your feet off the brakes and put them on the floor, on the deck. You do not want to have the brakes on. You now have advanced your throttles full forward. You've tightened the friction knob down because when this catapult fires, you don't want anything to go back to an idle position and reduce your power. You pull out a little iron bar, you lock a couple fingers around it, so you've got your left hand locked around your throttle and 100% power all the way up. He is now saying,